And good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Blinkers Off. Tonight we're featuring Barton Cockburn. Nathan Hand joins us later in the program. Highlights from Albion Park as well. And Chris Barsby is with me. How are you, Chris?
Very well, thanks, David.
Let's swing into the news. Luke McCarthy, he's going gangbusters in Sydney.
Yeah, and he's back in town tomorrow at Albion Park because Mr Feelgood kicks off his new campaign, and Luke McCarthy will be coming north to drive him. He's had 3 trials. He's ready to go. But just on the stable in Sydney, as you said, dominating. 5 winners 2 weeks ago, 4 again on Saturday night. The only department he's not dominating is the trotters, but don't be surprised if a good one pops up very shortly.
OK, we're following the path of Smoking Up and the controversial Inter-Dominion. What happens this week?
This week, evidence submissions will be taken. Legal submissions were taken last week, so evidence submissions this week. So basically, once they get presented this week, we're just waiting for a verdict to be handed down. So we're drawing closer and closer to the end of this long-going inquiry. Just on Smoking Up himself, Lance Justice was at Albion Park last week, looking at the track as far as the track surface is concerned. He is expected to start this Friday night in the Pro Chevalier Free-for-All.
Corporate bookies are betting on whether there'll be a decision before the next Inter-Dominion. And it's looming, don't worry. OK, Auckland Reactor, some news there.
Auckland Reactor, there is a very good chance that this one-time pin-up horse will be in Queensland for the start of the Grand Circuit. He's set to trial again this week, and again it will be from the stand. He trialled last week from the stand. Wasn't the best beginning. The trial itself was very good, but the start was bad. So if he steps away poorly again this week, expect a decision to be made, and he'll be arriving in Queensland to tackle the Gold Coast Cup and the QPC before heading further south.
Grand Circuit is looming, and of course New Zealand Cup in early November.
Yeah, and there's some great nominations expected to be handed in this week. They're due on Wednesday, the New Zealand Cup nominations. Smoking Up is expected to be amongst nominations. He's one Australian that will be nominated. It'll be interesting to see if there's many others. I'm not expecting to see many more, but they close off on Wednesday. OK, now some news regarding the Australian Falcon Sealster. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He's been a champion stallion, the sire of such notable performers like McArdle, El Sue, just to name a few, but no longer with us. He lived to a ripe old age Falcon Sealster. I think he was about 30 or 31, but they made the decision over the weekend to put him down.
Yeah, I saw him there at Neville a few years ago. Great ambassador for the New Zealand breeding industry, and for the world for that matter. What about the Little Brown Jug?
Little Brown Jug will be run later this week. It'll come through Friday morning Australian time, so that's a race that is steeped in tradition. There's been some great sires to come down under from the Little Brown Jug, so it'll be interesting to see how the 2011 version is unfolded.
The Australian Horse of the Year awards have been announced.
And Smoking Up got the top gong. It was interesting to see some of the awards. There was a big push for Sushi, the 3-year-old. He, of course, went through the season undefeated, but Smoking Up, courtesy of his victory in the Inter-Dominion and the Miracle Mile, got him over the line.
And we'll talk more about the Australian Horse of the Year awards next week. A little bit of a gripe there. Now, in closing with the news regarding Albion Park.
Just a reminder about the Burns bloodstock reduction sale coming up on October 2. There's plenty of broodmares and yearlings that will go under the hammer. So October 2 catalogues are available. For further information, contact the stud.
And fairly timely there, I've got a bit of news to end with that expect a former leading trainer to make a comeback to Queensland harness racing and possibly settling in the Bayside district of Redcliffe. We'll hear more about that in the coming weeks. This is Blinkers Off. Let's go to our feature interview. And tonight, of course, last week we spoke with Grant Dixon. Well, he's the self-proclaimed number 2 man in charge, Barton Cockburn, a young man certainly going places. And Chris Barsby, in his trip to the Dixon stables, recently had a chat with Barton Cockburn.
I want to catch up with Barton Cockburn. He's one of the most promising junior drivers currently going around in southeast Queensland, and he hails from a very famous family in harness racing. So this morning, we're going to speak with Barton Cockburn. Barton, you were born to be in harness racing. You come from a very well-known family up on the Darling Downs. At any stage in your young career, did you think about getting out of harness racing, or were you always destined to be in harness racing?
Chris, it's something I always wanted to do. Obviously, hard to do so far from like the metropolitan tracks and just the racing tracks in general. It's always a 2-hour drive to go probably to our closest track. And obviously, we'd sort of got out of horses to a great extent when the stud finished. And then obviously it takes a long time to get those horses back again. So but between school and apprenticeship, it was difficult, but it's probably something that was always always there and always wanted to do.
In your younger days, did you really enjoy going to the races just as a kid?
Probably when I was about at 10, I think I decided, like, even just taking a horse to the wash or just being able to talk to people. That's probably where I just sort of thought, well, this is what I want to do. Always just a passion, yeah.
With your parents and your grandfather, Lawson Cockburn, very well known, what was the advice they were giving early on in your career?
They were probably steering me away from it, if anything. They sort of knew there's probably more downs than ups in the industry, especially with like the Toowoomba tracks and the closer tracks to us closing. It was always going to be a hike, and unless you're prepared to do it all or nothing, yeah, it's hard to do.
Well, talking about location and being based up on the Darling Downs, obviously no mini trotters, so how did you sort of, cut your teeth on the bigger horses?
They had unofficial trials at Marburg, and at the time when we started going, all you had to have was a stable hands licence and you could drive in the unofficial trials. So that's probably where it kicked off. Probably 14 or 15, and there was no getting out of the bike once I was in.
So once you've cut your teeth, you had that passion, you needed to get with a bigger stable. When did you decide to, get serious about making a move and linking with one of the bigger stables?
I had a short stint with Daryl Graham. I was still doing my apprenticeship and had a little bit of a hiccup with a licence, and ended up having to get a job. Probably where I didn't have to drive to work, obviously. And Daryl Graham at the time had a position, and him and Linda were good enough to put me on for 6 months, and that's sort of where I thought, it's a good enough opportunity to see which way I wanted to go. Like, I still could go back to my apprenticeship or steer more towards the trotters. So yeah, that's probably the turning point there.
With the apprenticeship, what were you looking at early on?
I actually finished a building apprenticeship. That was sort of a deal made with Mum and Dad at the time. Had to have that just in case, obviously, something did happen to go wrong in this industry, that you always got something to fall back on. So, yeah, it was something I liked, but you've still just got the horses there in the back of your mind. So.
Barton, your first full season of driving, or your rookie season we could call it, was 2005-2006. Do you remember your first drive?
I think I do. Actually, it was not quite gold at the Gold Coast. Yeah, sat in the death and might have filled the first 5, I think. Yeah.
Your first season, only a handful of drives, I think it was about 17 or 18. No wins in your first season. Were you disappointed with that?
It's probably always good to get that monkey off your back, but obviously the longer it takes, the hungrier you get, and it's probably a good thing in the end.
Do you remember your first winner?
Yeah, it's actually one that I owned, so it was both good on the pocket and obviously good to win.
This past season, it's been a big season for you. It's been a big season for the Dixon stable. Are you happy with where you're at with your driving?
Oh, for sure, Chris. It's been a terrific season for me. My aim was to get 50 winners for the season when I kicked off, but obviously just had to keep lifting that bar a little bit as I reached the goal. So I think I'm not far off 80 now, so I'm pumped with that. Yeah.
Each year you're going to have to set yourself new goals. Looking ahead to the new season, is that Century the next big thing for you?
Oh, that'd be terrific if I could reach that. Probably just try and finish in the top 5 as well. It'd be a big thing too. So yeah, that the Century is probably the first goal yet.
Do you still have the claim for this new season?
I've still got it for 8 months, so that'll definitely help reach the first probably 40 winners.
So in a way, you've got to be quite picky with your drives to make sure you maximise those claims.
Oh, in a way, Chris, but you also got to look after the people that have probably looked after me all the way through. So in a way, probably got a little bit picky, but at the end of the day, those people have given me the 100+ winners up to date. So.
Well, let's talk about those people. Who are the people that have been very good to you?
Oh, obviously, family. Like had a lot of patient long trips to the races. The first probably couple hundred drives, while I'm still cutting my teeth. But well, John McMullen put me on a lot early for Rock Lee and just getting me. I've had Grant. He's been terrific this season. Grant and even Natalie early on. They've more or less given me the third stringers all the way through the season. Now I've moved up to the seconds. So, but then you've got like Shane Sanderson and Graham White and just people like that. Like they just put you on every week. So they've been terrific. Yeah.
What about Grant as far as a role model is concerned? Do you classify him as a role model?
Oh, for sure. He's I've definitely noticed just my own driving, like just watching Grant. Doesn't have to sort of tell you too much, but just through watching him, definitely made me a better driver this season for sure.
Is there another driver out there that you'd like to watch closely and just sort of base your, or model yourself on?
There's quite a few, like probably anyone like in the top 10 this season. Like they get there for a reason. Like they're good drivers, and to handpick 3 or 4 is hard. Like you even just probably not the high role model sort of drivers. Like you got the Peter Greggs and that probably don't finish the top 10, but they're really good drivers. So just watching that. You also watch the other drivers, probably teach you things not to do. So in a way.
What about special horses? What would you consider to be the best horse that you've sat behind?
Black's a Fake. We got to track work him here a couple of weeks on that. And Grant went on holidays last year. Between him and actually got to drive Lanarkos in his first education. That's probably something. And then Slick Shandon, he's been terrific to me.
Righto. Well, that's all right. There's some big names there. Blank's a Fake, Lanarkos, Slick Shandon. He's been a great old horse. As far as next year is concerned, we've touched on kicking home a century. Any aspirations to be a trainer with a big stable?
Probably not next season. Obviously, like to keep a few of my own going and rack up a few more winners would be terrific. But I'll probably just set my goals mainly in the driving ranks next season. Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Chris.
Yes, the name Cockburn, it's steeped in harness racing history, of course. John, his father, Barton's father, and Lawson, Barton's grandfather. So he's a young man certainly going places. We'll take a break. We're going to speak Albion Park matters next with General Manager of the club, Nathan Hand.